My name is Maya, and this is my story. Like and subscribe for more powerful stories, and press the bell icon so you never miss an update. I always thought forever was real. That when someone looked you in the eyes and whispered, "I promise," it meant something solid, something sacred, something that couldn't break no matter what storms came. For me, that someone was Adrian. He wasn't just a man I loved. He was the man I built my whole life around. He made me believe in the kind of love people write novels about. The kind that feels endless, as if time itself bows down to it. Adrian entered my life like a gentle storm. Soft, disarming, yet impossible to ignore. I still remember the first time we met at a friend's gathering. He wasn't loud or trying to be the center of attention like the others. No, Adrian had this quiet charisma that drew me in. His smile carried a warmth I hadn't known in years, and when he spoke to me, it was as if the noise of the world faded and only his voice mattered. That night, when he asked if I'd like to go for coffee sometime, I said yes without hesitation, not knowing that single yes would change everything. 3 years later, that yes had turned into nights filled with whispered secrets, laughter spilling into the dark, and dreams we sketched together like children painting futures they believe will never wash away. He used to call me his home. I clung to those words, convinced that if I was his home, he would never need anywhere else to go. Forever, he used to say, his fingers brushing mine across the table, or his lips pressing against my forehead in the middle of the night. Forever, Mia. That's all I want with you. And I believed him. Every single time. But forever is fragile. It doesn't always shatter with an explosion. Sometimes it breaks quietly, like glass slipping from your hands in slow motion, the pieces scattering before you even realize they've fallen. It began with little shifts, subtle changes that I brushed off as life getting busier, as him being tired, as me maybe being too sensitive. Adrian started coming home later, his excuses neat and believable. Deadlines, traffic, meetings that ran over. He'd walk in with that practiced smile, kiss my cheek, and collapse on the couch as though the weight of the world had been on his shoulders all day. And I believed him, because love makes you want to believe, doesn't it? Then came his phone. It was always in his hand, glued to him like a second skin. He used to leave it lying around, face up, buzzing with notifications he never cared about hiding. But now it was locked behind a new password. The screen always flipped down, his thumb pressing the lock button whenever I walked into the room. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. I told myself, don't be paranoid, Mia. Don't ruin something perfect with your doubts. One evening, I was folding laundry, humming softly to myself. Adrian had rushed out earlier, saying he had to grab something from the office. I remember thinking I'd surprise him by tidying his dresser drawer, something he always neglected. That's when I saw it. A small velvet box, tucked clumsily under a pile of shirts. At first, I smiled. My heart jumped in my chest. And my hands trembled as I pulled it out. A ring. A breathtaking ring. Delicate and beautiful. Shimmering even under the dull yellow glow of the bedside lamp. My breath caught in my throat. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. The proof of all those whispered forevers. Tears filled my eyes before I even realized it. I imagined him dropping to one knee. Imagined the joy. Imagined the promises becoming real in front of everyone we loved. For a second, for one small, perfect second, I thought my forever was finally here. But then I turned the ring in my hand. and everything I thought I knew turned to ash. Inside the band, in tiny, delicate engraving, were words that didn't belong to me. To Leela, my only. My smile faded. My chest went cold, then heavy, as if someone had pressed a stone against my lungs. My fingers trembled so violently, I almost dropped the box. Leela. The name echoed in my head, like a curse, like a scream, like thunder rolling in a storm I never saw coming. My name isn't Leela. I whispered it to myself, as if saying it aloud would make sense of what I had just seen. But it didn't. Nothing could. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the ring box to my chest, my heart breaking in slow, suffocating waves. Questions clawed at me, each one sharper than the last. Who was she? How long had she been in his life? How many of his forevers had been whispered to her instead of me? I thought about every night he came home late, every time his phone lit up with a smile he didn't share with me, every kiss that suddenly felt rushed, every excuse I swallowed whole. The pieces clicked together like a puzzle I had been too blind to solve. And the picture that formed was unbearable. I didn't cry, not at first. I just sat there, frozen, staring at the proof of my betrayal. The ring wasn't just metal and diamonds. It was the sharpest blade I had ever held, and it cut me deeper than anything else ever could. Forever, he said. Forever with me. But that forever was never mine. It belonged to Lila. Chapter 2. I don't know how long I sat there with that ring box in my hands. Time felt strange, slippery, distorted, as though I had fallen into some other world where nothing made sense anymore. My chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. But inside, I felt numb. I wanted to scream, to tear the house apart, to confront him right then and there. But something inside me held back, whispering, "Don't. Not yet. Wait." So I slid the ring back into its velvet box, careful not to smudge the cold metal with my shaking hands. I placed it exactly where I had found it, beneath the pile of shirts in his dresser drawer. My body was trembling, but my mind was sharp in that moment. If I confronted him now, he would twist it, make excuses, make me doubt my own eyes. And I needed more than suspicion. I needed the truth. When Adrian came home that night, his smile almost broke me. His keys jingled in his hand, his shoes squeaked faintly against the wooden floor, and he leaned down to kiss my forehead like he always did. That simple gesture, one that once made me feel loved, now felt like a knife pressed to my skin. I pulled away slightly, hoping he didn't notice the stiffness in my body. "Long day?" he muttered, dropping his bag by the couch. Traffic was a nightmare. I studied him carefully. The way he loosened his tie, the way he avoided my gaze, the way he seemed more tired in spirit than in body. And for the first time, I realized his exhaustion wasn't from work. It was from lying, from living two lives. At dinner, I pushed food around my plate, my appetite long gone. I tried to act normal, but every word he spoke sounded like static, meaningless noise against the truth I now carried inside me. When he reached across the table to squeeze my hand, I nearly flinched. Did he hold her hand like this too? Did he promise her the same forever, he whispered to me? The questions tore at me silently, but I kept my mouth shut. I smiled when he spoke, laughed at his tired jokes, all while my heart screamed inside. Over the next few days, I became an actress in my own life. I smiled when I wanted to sob. I nodded when I wanted to demand answers. I watched him more closely than ever. searching for cracks in his carefully crafted mask. And the cracks were there. Late nights grew later. His phone never left his side. Once I walked into the room and found him typing furiously before quickly locking the screen when he noticed her. His smile was forced, his laugh hollow. I knew it now. I could see it. This wasn't the man who used to adore me, who once made me believe I was the only one. This was a man carrying a secret, and I was suffocating under the weight of it. One evening, he came home, muttering something about being drained, and went straight to the shower. That's when it happened. His phone buzzed on the table. Normally, I would never touch his phone. I believed in trust. I believed that love meant never needing to snoop. But trust had already been buried beneath lies, and tonight, my heart needed confirmation. I glanced at the screen, just a glance, and that was enough. The name glowing brightly on the screen was Lila. I froze. My pulse hammered in my ears, the world around me falling into silence. His phone kept buzzing, the vibration humming against the wood, demanding my attention. And then I saw it, a preview of her message. I can't wait for you to tell her. I want us to stop hiding. The words seared themselves into me like fire. Tell her, stop hiding. There it was, the truth spelled out in a few cruel sentences. My heart dropped into my stomach. My hands grew cold. It was real. I wasn't paranoid, I wasn't imagining things. The woman whose name was carved into that ring wasn't just some fantasy. She was real, and she wanted him to leave me. I stood there, staring at the phone, tears burning my eyes. I didn't unlock it. I didn't need to. That one message was enough to rip my entire world apart. When Adrian came out of the shower, his hair damp, his skin flushed from the heat, he smiled at me like nothing was wrong. He kissed my cheek, wrapped his arm around me, and pulled me close on the couch. I sat stiff in his embrace, holding back sobs, my heart screaming while my lips said nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. He lay beside me, breathing steady, lost in dreams, while I stared at the ceiling, with tears streaming down my face. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the sound of his steady, peaceful breaths. How could he sleep so easily while my world was crumbling right beside him? I turned my head to look at him in the dark. The man I loved. The man who promised me forever. The man who whispered home into my hair. And all I could see was a stranger. I clutched the blanket tighter around me, biting my lip to keep from sobbing aloud. In that moment, the truth was clear. I was lying next to a man who belonged to someone else. Forever was never mine. Forever was hers. Chapter 3. The morning after that sleepless night, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. My eyes were swollen, rimmed with red, my skin pale as if the life had drained out of me. I pressed my palms against the cool sink, staring at my reflection. Who are you now, Maya? The woman he lied to? The woman who loved blindly? Or the woman who deserves the truth? Something hardened inside me then. I was done drowning in silence. I needed answers. I needed to hear him say it, even if the words would crush me completely. All day, I carried that decision like a burning coal in my chest. My hands shook at work. My thoughts tangled with every excuse he might throw at me, every lie he might spin. But the fire in me refused to die. By evening, when I walked into our apartment and saw him lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I stood there for a moment, just watching him, his face lit by the glow of the screen, a faint smile tugging at his lips. I wondered if it was her who made him smile like that. The thought nearly broke me again, but I steadied myself. No more running, no more pretending. "Adrian," I said, my voice low but steady. "Who is Leila?" The words dropped into the room like thunder. He froze. His shoulders stiffened. His fingers tightened around the phone. Slowly, he looked up at me, his eyes wide for just a fraction of a second before he tried to mask it with a laugh. "Leila? She's just someone from work. A colleague. Why?" I felt my stomach twist with rage. He was lying so easily, so effortlessly, as though I were nothing more than a fool. My eyes burned, but I held his gaze. "Don't lie to me." He frowned, trying to look confused, but his eyes betrayed him. There was fear there, panic. "I saw the ring," I whispered. My voice cracked, but my words cut through the air like knives. The inscription, "To Leila, my only. Don't you dare lie to me again." His face went pale. For a moment, silence hung heavy between us. I thought maybe, just maybe, he would break down, confess, beg for forgiveness. I thought he might at least fight for me. But instead, his lips pressed together, and when he finally spoke, the words nearly ripped me apart. "You weren't supposed to see that." That was all he said. Not an explanation, not an apology, just that. My knees buckled, and I gripped the edge of the couch to keep myself from collapsing. My heart shattered into a million pieces. You weren't supposed to see that. The truth was never meant to be mine. I was never meant to know. Tears blurred my vision. So it's true. All of it. She's the one, not me. He tried to reach for me, but I pulled back violently. My voice rose, shaking with pain and fury. 3 years, Adrian. 3 years of promises, of forever, of telling me I was your home. Was it all a lie? He opened his mouth, then closed it, as though the words wouldn't come. He looked away, and in that silence I heard every answer I needed. That night, I packed my bag. My hands trembled as I shoved clothes into a suitcase, tears falling onto the fabric. Every item I packed felt like ripping a piece of my heart out of our life together. I had loved him with everything I had, and now I was leaving with nothing but a broken heart and the bitter taste of betrayal. As I zipped the bag shut, Adrian appeared in the doorway. His eyes were red, his jaw tight. "Mia, wait. Please, it's not what you think." My laugh came out broken, sharp, bitter. "Not what I think? Then tell me, Adrian. Tell me why the ring wasn't for me. Tell me why she calls you at night. Tell me why she says she's tired of hiding. Tell me why I was never your forever." His mouth opened, but no words came out. Silence. Just silence. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand and looked him in the eyes one last time. "You don't love me. You never did. Not the way I loved you." I pulled the suitcase behind me, my heart aching with every step. At the door, his hand shot out and grabbed my arm. His grip was tight, desperate, trembling. "Don't go," he whispered. His voice cracked, almost breaking. I yanked my arm free, shaking my head. "Then give me a reason to stay." But he didn't. He just stood there, silent, broken, as I walked out the door. The night air hit me like a slap, cold and sharp, but for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. My chest still burned, my heart still bled, but I was free. Free from his lies, his empty promises, his hollow forevers. As I dragged my suitcase down the street, I whispered to myself through the tears, "You deserve better, Mia. You deserve the truth. You deserve real forever." But deep down, I knew healing would be a long, brutal road. And I wasn't sure I was ready to walk it alone. Chapter 4. The weight of the truth pressed down on me like a mountain. Yet, I carried it silently, tucked away in the deepest corner of my heart. Every morning, I woke up beside Daniel, his arm draped lazily over me, his lips whispering promises of forever. And all I could see was that ring, the ring that was meant for another woman. I would lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering who she was. What did she have that I didn't? Was she prettier, funnier, more captivating? Was she the one he thought about when he pulled me into his arms at night? My thoughts became a relentless storm, tearing apart every piece of confidence I once held. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed to see the truth with my own eyes, to catch the shadows that lingered behind his smile. So, I started watching him more closely. The late-night phone calls he dismissed as work. The sudden urgency to take showers before I could lean in and smell his skin. The way he guarded his phone as if it were a secret diary. I noticed it all. One evening, while he was in the shower, his phone lit up on the nightstand. My heart thudded in my chest so loud, I thought it would wake the entire world. The name on the screen was saved under something ridiculous, Carpenter. But no Carpenter texts at midnight with a heart emoji. My trembling fingers reached for the phone, but before I could unlock it, the water stopped running. Panic shot through me, and I dropped it back on the table, pretending to be asleep when he came out. That night, I cried into the pillow so quietly, I was afraid the sound of my breaking heart would echo in the room. The next day, determination replaced my tears. I needed answers. So when Daniel left for work, I searched every corner of the house again, this time with more courage than before. And that's when I found it. A small velvet box, hidden behind a stack of sweaters in the back of his closet. I pulled it out with trembling hands. My breath caught in my throat. Opening it felt like opening my own wound. Inside was the ring. The same one I had stumbled upon weeks ago. Perfect, sparkling, and screaming at me with questions I couldn't answer. It wasn't just the ring that shattered me. It was the tiny folded note tucked beneath it. My hands shook violently as I unfolded it. And when my eyes skimmed the words, my soul nearly collapsed. Can't wait to start forever with you. D. Forever. That word, the same word he whispered to me in the quiet of our nights, the same word he carved into my heart, was now written for someone else. My knees buckled beneath me, and I sank to the floor, clutching the note as if it were a knife still lodged in my chest. Anger and sorrow battled inside me. Part of me wanted to rip the note apart, to throw the ring out the window, to scream until the walls bled. But another part of me, colder, sharper, wanted to wait, to watch, to let him walk into the trap of his own lies. That evening, Daniel came home as if nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead, asked about dinner, told me about a client who annoyed me. I looked at him, really looked at him, and wondered how a man could wear betrayal so beautifully. How could he smile while my heart bled? Later that night, as he wrapped his arms around me, I whispered, "Daniel, do you love me?" He chuckled softly, pressing his lips against my temple. "More than anything in this world, you know that." I closed my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat, because now I knew it wasn't me he meant. Days turned into weeks, and my life became a theater of lies. I laughed when I wanted to cry, smiled when I wanted to scream, and played the role of the woman he thought was blind. But inside, I was waiting. Waiting for the moment he would slip. Waiting for the moment his mask would fall. Waiting for the day I could finally confront him with the truth I held so tightly. Because love is blind, yes. But betrayal? Betrayal has a way of sharpening your vision until you see everything. And I saw Daniel for who he truly was. I just wasn't ready for what I would see next. Chapter 5. The moment of truth didn't come the way I imagined. I thought I would confront Daniel in our living room, the air thick with silence, maybe my hands trembling as I held the ring up to his face. But life doesn't follow rehearsed scripts. It unravels like a storm when you least expect it. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. The sun was bright, but inside me, everything was shattered. Daniel had told me he was going to meet a client for lunch. He kissed me quickly on the cheek, his cologne clinging to my skin like a lie, and left. But something in me snapped that day. I couldn't take another second of pretending. I followed him. My car trailed behind his, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart raced, beating faster than the traffic lights changing above me. And then I saw him pull into a cafe, a small, quiet place tucked away from the busy streets. I parked a distance away and waited, my stomach twisting into knots. And then she appeared. A woman stepped out of a cab, her long hair catching the sunlight. She was beautiful, graceful, carrying herself with the ease of someone who had no reason to hide. Daniel stood up from the table when he saw her, and then he hugged her. Not just any hug. The kind of hug that lingers, that speaks of familiarity and promises whispered in the dark. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, I couldn't move. It felt like my heart was being split open in real time, piece by piece. I wanted to storm in, to scream, to throw the ring box on the table between them. But I didn't. I stayed frozen, watching the man who promised me forever, holding someone else like he was his world. I don't even remember how long I sat there, but eventually they laughed, they talked, and then he pulled out the box. The same velvet box I had found in his closet. He placed it on the table, opened it, and her eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth, overwhelmed, and nodded before he even asked. Daniel slid the ring onto her finger, his face lit with joy. A joy he had never shown me. That was the moment something inside me shattered beyond repair. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I knew was pain. Raw, unfiltered pain. I drove home in silence. The image of them burned into my mind like a scar I could never erase. When Daniel walked in hours later, he looked at me with that same easy smile, like nothing had happened. But I had changed. That night, I couldn't hold it back anymore. As he walked past me in the hallway, I whispered his name. My voice was steady, but inside, I was trembling. Daniel. He turned to me, casual as ever. Yeah, babe? I held up the folded note. His note. The one that said, "Can't wait to start forever with you." His face froze. The color drained from his cheeks. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice breaking, despite my best effort. "Who did you buy the ring for?" For a moment, silence filled the room. His mouth opened, closed, his lies scrambling in his throat. And then he sighed, like a man caught in a net too tight to escape. Her name was Clara. She was his past, his unfinished love story, as he called it. He told me he hadn't meant for it to go this far, that he loved me, but couldn't ignore what he felt for her. Loved me? The words stung like poison. Love doesn't hide rings in closets. Love doesn't carve forever into two hearts at once. Love doesn't betray. I listened, not because I cared about his excuses, but because I needed to hear how little I meant to him. Every word was a dagger, but each dagger gave me strength. Strength to finally walk away. When he finished, I looked him in the eye. My tears had dried, leaving only fire. You promised me forever, Daniel. But forever doesn't exist in your world. Only lies. He reached for me, desperate, but I stepped back. My silence was louder than any scream. That night, I packed my bags. I left behind the walls that had heard my laughter and my tears. The bed where I once believed in love. The man who had torn me apart. And as I closed the door, I realized something. He may have taken my trust, my faith, my dreams of forever, but he didn't take me. I was still standing. Bruised, yes. Broken, maybe, but alive. And sometimes, survival is louder than love. This is my story, and though it didn't end with the forever I was promised, it ended with something stronger. My freedom.